This is before the blow up podcast.
Yeah, we've only got one camera angle, but we're running it anyway, and we're here with Dean Lucas. I
Dean.
haven't met you before, but yeah, good to meet you.
Good to
So
meet you too, bro.
But I'm honored to have you on, man. Like, honestly, I'm stoked. I'm actually so stoked that you come on. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
yeah, thanks. And your studio, like, is sick. It is really cool. Like,
I appreciate it.
sick.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's one of those things, man. It's like this is obviously like your first guest or like one of your first
Yeah,
episodes.
you're literally the first guest. So we've had like, we tried to have a few guests on there, and then they're like, oh, we're like, oh, okay, we'll book you in here. And they're like, oh, actually, nah, I'm not good that day. So like, we've had a few, but like, I was like, oh, I really want to talk to Dean. Really want to talk to Dean.
It takes time there, and I think as well, like it's gonna take like at the start, obviously you've got each other and you can do solo episodes, which will help build it. But when you're trying to get guests on, it is hard at the start. I had the benefit when I started mine, it was on the World Cups, and I had so many connections with
Yeah.
people on the World Cup, so it flowed quite easily. But it is a process to build a name up and do it. But like I just had a little shitty microphone that I didn't know how to use. I just ran around with a backpack and a laptop, and it's almost more fun at the start because you can kind of suck and it's all good because you're learning. But
Yeah,
then when you get more into it, it's like, all right, now the bar's been lifted, so then you've got to go to that standard.
yeah. I mean,
But you also learn so much as well.
Yeah.
But you'll have the studio next time I see the blow up.
Yeah.
You're gonna, what about when you blow up? Is it going to be we've blown
We-
up podcast?
we talked about
Or-
behind the blow up or after the blow
after
up,
the
so-
blow up.
something like
We
that.
still got a little way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When
But,
it does,
What-
let's see a name change.
Yeah, worry about that when we get there.
yeah.
But so yeah, how did you come about starting your own podcast then? Was it like, what was the inspiration?
Me and Charlie Harrison, we actually I didn't want to make a podcast per se. We wanted to do like an after race show or pre-race show. So more or less, you know, when you watch baseball or basketball or football, they have like the panel of people that talk about the event, the
Yeah.
sporting event, the race, whatever. We went, and I kind of did it with Eddie Masters this year, how we kind of did
Oh,
a race recap. So
They
that-
were good. They
so that
were
was
good.
that was the plan. It wasn't like obviously you're going to put it online, but it was more an interview style thing where you talk about the race, the riders, what's happening, the ins and outs of the sport, and that was our goal. And then it was just hard trying to link up with Charlie at every race to do it because he was on a different team, and it just kind of got tricky. So I just started doing it more solo, and then it kind of just eventuated into doing podcasts more or less than. And I go like the show was kind of a podcast as well. It was kind of the same thing, but started doing that. Really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Asked questions with people I'd known for 10 years that I'd never asked for any other reason that it wasn't on my. You know when you know someone for so long, but you don't ask them really simple things. But when you do a podcast, it's like you're asking for someone else. So it's like you open up a different like dialogue with your friends, and it makes you understand more about them, which I think's super beneficial to just your life in general. And it comes from doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Like you be around people all the time, and until you do a podcast with them, you go, okay, well maybe there's more questions to ask than
Yeah.
the surface level or wherever you might be asking it. So it's almost you're asking for other people, but you get as much out of it yourself. So
Yeah, that's a cool thing to say. Hey, like you may know someone for your whole life, but until you actually ask them something or ask them a question, it's like you can learn something from them that you thought you already knew everything about them.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think you've got to go into it. And this is the thing I go into now when I interview someone, no matter who it is when you're talking to someone that they are an expert at something that you know nothing about. And that could be anything big or small. So it's like, look at them like they are an expert at something and try and get as much information and knowledge out of that person as you can. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you're here for your own knowledge and you'll ask genuine questions because you're trying to learn, and then people listening to it will feel that and they'll obviously learn as well from it. So just be super curious, be super engaged, and you'll just don't think there's a dumb question. If you don't know something,
Yeah.
ask it. And then probably all the people at home be like, thank God you asked it because I didn't know it either. And it might seem obvious from the outside, but until you ask it, you don't know.
Yeah, it's like it's humbling almost. It's like you've almost got to come into it humble and yeah, like you said, ask any question. And we talked about it like even on the way up here. Ask questions that we want to know the answers to as well. Because if we're asking all these very surface level questions, then it's just going to become
That's what it is, man. You gotta be curious. You gotta be super curious and be like, I don't know this, and you might convince yourself that it's a dumb question, but probably 99% of the people listening don't know it either. So
Yep.
until you go, I'm just going to ask a question and not care about looking like a fool or looking silly, because most people are like, oh, I actually wanted to know that as well. And once you drop that ego thing, because I think a lot of people that do podcasts almost do it to try and look a certain way. Like they want to be like, look how smart I am, look how much I know, and they almost do it to like show their ego off. Where I don't think that's the case. Should be the case with podcasting. You should do it to learn from someone else and kind of put your ego away and just be curious in those moments, and obviously touch on things you know, but not just like show it off in a way.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, definitely starting the podcast, I really wanted to start a podcast because I wasn't the best at talking in front of a camera. Where Josh was definitely much more charismatic and
Yeah.
like, yeah, he just knew how to talk to a camera a lot better than I did. And so a big reason why personally I wanted to start one was to learn how to articulate and dictate and be a bit more charismatic for the camera, not disingenuine, but but just try and
It'll come so naturally, and once you like, you'll look back at these ones and you'll feel a bit like notchy and a bit, not like awkward, but it takes a while to get that flow, and once you're in it, it's the easiest thing ever. You just, like I said to Josh, like we talk all the time,
yeah,
just talk like you're talking to me normally,
Yeah.
and then eventually you forget about the camera. Like I feel more comfortable talking almost on a podcast. Like I change how I speak, but in a good way. It's like I change who I am and level up in a certain way and think harder, think deeper, and I feel like articulate in different ways. So I think it's just one of those things that takes time. It's muscle memory. It's just you got to train it and get better at it. Because I said, do you read much?
uh, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't have a lot of time to read, so
I was gonna say, if you're gonna do a podcast, you gotta read, man.
Okay.
You're gonna read. It's gonna cut. I remember watching a clip, and I think you said like four
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
you got me so dirty.
four times in that thing. But that's, dude, reading's like training. And it's like if you want to do a podcast, like that's your training. That's going to the gym. That's getting your brain thinking. That's getting like, if you want to articulate your thoughts better, reading is such an easy, simple way to do that.
Yeah,
And like
right.
listening to audio books is good, but if you actually want to become a better speaker, even when you're reading, read out loud. Like read to yourself, and then pause and like there's ways to train it. And if you can read it like how you'd want to articulate on a podcast, that's going to be better when you do a podcast.
Yeah, it's super
So
interesting.
just it's like I try and read every day now, and I know when I'm reading all the time, I speak so much better.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
if you can,
Yeah,
definitely will
it.
help.
That.
What books are you reading at the moment? What's the book you're going through?
Got one at the moment. It's in my bag actually. No, it's on the table. It's Tony Robinson.
Oh
What's the
yeah.
actual name of it?
Awaken the Giant.
Awakening the Giant Within. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He's like a motivational speaker.
He's sick.
And yeah, it's just getting a lot of. We're talking about. I'm reading a part now, and it's about values and where you see your values in what order you see them in. And it was funny because I was doing a few things recently that weren't really good for my health, and my top value would be health, and I wasn't feeling that good because I wasn't living to like my true values. And it's like if you're not living to your true values, no matter what they are, there's always going to be a blowback on yourself and your emotions and your feelings. So I read that and I was like, okay, in what order are my values lined up? And it would probably be like health, love, compassion for others, maybe freedom. Think of what else would be there, like gratitude, like those kind of things. And once you see them, and then you go, okay, these are my values. And then if you don't live to them, you're like, no wonder I'm not feeling the best I can, because you're not living to your core values of who you are as a person. So
And how did you kind of come to? Was it part of the book, kind of crafting that list, or like how did you come to?
they give you like examples of
Right.
certain things of where he kind of put his values at. But I just know for myself, like health, I don't think like without your health, it's like, for a perfect example, when you get sick, what else do you care about?
Yeah,
Nothing. So it's like when
Yeah.
you're sick, you realize that, okay, if I can't care for someone else, or I can't worry about like love or compassion or even like like all that kind of goes out the window. So if you're not healthy, it's like it's hard to focus on those other things that you need to focus on. So I just put that at the top for me, and then the other ones like love. I think that's super important. I think that's kind of the whole. If you can feel proper, genuine love, I think that's the best thing any person can feel. So I put that in there. Even like gratitude for your situation. It's hard to be pissed off and angry if you're grateful.
Yeah.
You try and stay in that as much as you can, but
I heard I heard from, I don't know where I heard it from, but the opposite of anxiety is thankfulness and gratitude. And
Mm.
so I think chemically in your brain, it's impossible to be anxious and have anxiety while you're like,
Have you ever tried to be grateful and angry at the same time?
it's pretty
Doesn't
much,
work, does
yeah,
it?
Yeah, true that.
yeah,
And it's easy to like it's a thing like my mate Cooper Chapman, he does a thing like three things you're grateful for, and it's pretty easy to pull out three things, and as soon as you focus on those three things, it takes out a lot of worry about
100%.
all these other things. And our brains have this really funny thing how they'll make every situation seem a lot worse than it is, and a lot of the time they'll make the good situations not seem as good as they are. So it's like, how do you trick yourself, not trick yourself, but how do you change your mindset around, okay, so this actually isn't as bad. A lot of times, if you write it down or say it out loud, like a trick you can do is, if you're in a bad situation, record yourself on your phone talking about how bad your situation is, and then watch it back. I
Yeah,
guarantee
that's
you, I guarantee you watch it back and be like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Like, you just seem like, what am I saying? But sometimes we need to see ourselves in that state, because if you, like, the whole thing is like, if you treated yourself like your best friend, you'd probably treat yourself really well. But we don't treat ourselves like our best friends. We treat ourselves like this person that we don't care about, and we don't have those, like, we don't look in a mirror of who we are or what we're doing, and you just kind of go down this path of looking at yourself and going, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing this enough, or blah blah blah. But if you looked at your best friend in that way, you'd be like, you're a dick, man. Like,
yeah,
stop putting me down, like, build me up, kind of thing. So
Mm,
yeah, just like look after yourself,
yeah,
that's sick.
more or less.
But yeah, I mean the podcast is called Before the Blow Up, so I'd honestly like to, as a mountain bike rider as well, would like to talk a bit about like your upbringing, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. Like even as like a kid, like your upbringing and what pushed you into riding. So I guess my first question was how's your childhood?
Childhood was good, man. Grew up on a farm. Grew up with a lot of freedom, like a heap of freedom to do pretty much whatever we wanted, in the sense of, like, we rode motorbikes, we went shooting, we drove around in like rally cars on the property. Like, we could just kind of go. We lived, like, our land backed onto the forest, so we'd ride motorbikes up in the forest. We were kind of as free as you can kind of be in that sense. So that was, it was really fun, and it was like, I had a good upbringing. Parents loved me, like, just really just fun. We had cousins that would come over, would go riding motorbikes and all that kind of stuff. So it was really fun in that regard, but it was also quite isolating in a way, being like in a country setting where, like, the closest town was like 10 minutes away, but even that's like a real small country town as well.
Mm.
So I guess we didn't have that. We had a lot to do in our little bubble when it came to like riding and all that. So I think I just gravitated towards that because it was, I couldn't just go to like the skate park or something. I couldn't just go hang out with mates and play soccer or stuff like that. It was like, you're here, and whatever you've got here is what you've got. And that's why I think I gravitated so heavily towards like mountain biking and motocross and all that, because it was just like literally my backyard.
Yeah.
I could ride out of my shed and I'd have a motocross track right there, or a mountain bike track that I'd built jump side. Like, I remember building dirt jumps. I remember I got into. Used to watch a show called Drop In. There's like,
I've never heard of that. Hey,
you never even heard of it.
never heard of Drop It.
Damn millennials. So go search up Drop In. What got me started. It's these guys from Canada, and they travel around and ride different like skinnies and all that kind of
Yeah.
like wooden features and stuff in America, and like, I mean, Canada, and Kamloops and Whistler. And they got me into mountain biking pretty much, and I just go build jumps out in the paddock for hours and hours and hours, and it was, yeah, the one of the funnest things. I remember just being out there on a shovel for hours. And it was funny because the sheep, my uncle had sheep that would come in,
Yeah.
and they would always wreck the jumps. I remember I'd come home from school sometimes and I'd see the sheep in the paddock, and I'd just be like, oh no, not again. But it was this good resilience that it built, man, that it's like, no matter how much effort you put into something, and how much love and affection and care and like effort again and again and again, something outside of your control can come take that away from you. And it
Mm.
builds the resilience that no matter what you do, something out of your control can take it away. And it's just accepting that and being like, okay, rebuild again, rebuild again. And it builds that resilience. And it's like, this comes back to, I guess, when you go to races, you could have the run of your life, and then it starts raining halfway down or something like that. Like it's that resilience to go, okay, something can happen that's outside of my control that could wreck my day in a way.
Yeah.
But if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. And I guess you have been a good advocate for that at races where it's like you'll see stuff happen and you go, well, that is what it is. It's all good. And then you go show up again and show up again. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. It's like people get so concerned about winning and how that's like the main focus, but you're not always going to win. But if you keep showing up, like you're trying to win and you keep putting that effort in, like that is what builds you into the person you want to be. It doesn't have to be winning. You just need to keep showing up
Yeah.
and keep showing up for you. So I guess it's just those, like little things growing up that showed me that it's like, and it like subconsciously happened as well. I didn't think that. I just got pissed off for the sheep, but then it happened again and again.
Yeah.
And it's these little things you kind of almost Mr. Miyagi, Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karate Kid.
Karate
Yeah,
Kid,
yeah, yeah.
So it's these little things that turn you into the person that you were meant to be, but at the time you hate it. But then most of the time when you're in something you hate, it's probably going to turn into something really good for you later on. So
As a hindsight perspective, though.
exactly, yeah, exactly. In the moment, but it's trying to also have that thought process in those moments. Like whenever shit gets really hard, go, okay, what's this teaching me? Like, have you heard the idea of like the pain teacher?
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, but
Mm.
it makes sense on the other side of pain is the biggest lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like whenever you get, even if it's just like you crash, it's like, why did I crash? Or why did like heartache or like a business failed or like something happened? It's just like, okay, what am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And there's always something in there. You just got to dig for it to get it. And sometimes it takes longer than other times, but it's like, it's in there.
Yeah. Wow. That's, yeah. Um, yeah. What? Yeah, I'm just still processing
Just
that. That's unreal.
Because you would have felt that like this year, like there would have had times then you wouldn't have been stoked with what happened or where you're at, and then you're probably looking back, you're like, okay, well, because man, look, pain. So you get pain or pleasure, right? And people want to run away from pain, or they want to understand it so they don't go back into pain. So
Yeah.
that's when it teaches you, because it's like, I don't like this and I don't want to go back here. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I don't go back here. And
Yeah.
that's the thing you realize. Like, I'm way more motivated by pain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be in that at all. And like, even pleasure's nice, but it doesn't motivate me the same way as pain does.
Right.
So you would have felt this year when you would have had like a bad race or something would have happened, and then you're thinking that, and that's your fuel, man. That's your fuel when you're training. That's your fuel when you're working out what you're going to do next year. That's your fuel. That feeling of being in that spot, you're like, I don't want to go back there. And that is what, like, that's when you're getting up early. That's when you're training hard. That's when you're making the right connections. That's when you're riding your bike and testing it. That's all those things come from that feeling of like, I'm not going back there. 'Cause
Yeah.
that sucked.
Yeah.
So it's like understanding that pain and then using it. Like, it's fuel.
Yeah.
That pain is fuel, and it's going to like drive you forwards.
Yeah, it's similar to like that like having a role model but an opposite, something like you don't want to be.
But seeing someone that you're like, okay, that's not the life I want.
Exactly.
And I'm seeing
yeah.
what they're doing, so let's do the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I guess talking about pain and pleasure and getting things out of your biggest like troubles, what was one of the biggest lessons or that you've learnt from your accident?
From the accident, probably the biggest thing that I learned that it's dangerous to be in something when you're not fully in it. If you're not 100% in something, get out. And it was funny that I was actually getting out.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't to retire and it happened, I probably almost would have felt worse, because like after it happened, it was kind of like it was always going to happen in a way, because it's like I wasn't, after Leger, I'd mentally checked out of World Cup racing. I was
Just there to ride now, sort of thing. Not even, or
I didn't care. I didn't even want to ride. The day I crashed, I did my first run, and you obviously know how slippery and sketchy Snowshoe was.
yeah, it was pretty gnarly.
It was bad. And I did my first run. I was like, I don't want to be here. Like I went back up the top, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait till qualifying when the sun comes out, and just do my quali run. And honestly, if I didn't qualify, honestly would have been happy.
Yeah.
Like I was still gonna try. There's always that thing inside of me that I'm not gonna try.
Yeah.
But
I get that attitude though, because I had the exact same attitude and got my best result there.
with the whole not care.
Not care about qualifying. I was just happy to be there.
Oh, I wasn't even happy to be there though.
Oh,
That's the thing.
okay, I was.
I
But
like to I like to yeah say that I was happy to be there, but I was just like emotionally and mentally I'd kind of checked out
Yeah.
after Leger.
Why is that?
Well, I announced my retirement. I was like on the like I just knew that I was over. It was done. It almost just felt like I was just there to hang out with people and kind of have a bit of a send off. But like mentally, I remember when I'd go to a race and you go to a race to win, like and have that mindset that I can win or I can get a podium. I had the mindset if I don't qualify, I didn't care,
Right.
and that's you can't be good at something when you don't care. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like anything you care about carries with it a certain level of negative emotions that if you fail, you're gonna feel that, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel that.
Right.
So I was just there because it was my job still. I should be there, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
But I didn't even want to do the run that I crashed on. I remember telling my mechanic that I was going to wait to qualifying. And I was sitting there almost till the end of practice. And my mechanic, I don't want to throw Gary under the bus, but he's like, oh, just do a cruisy one. Just like go down and check, see how like dry the track is now.
mm,
And that's when I went down. I went head first in the tree and stretched my spinal cord, was paralyzed for a bit, and yeah, it's still coming back now. I've got feeling mostly back in my hands. Just strength isn't quite there yet, and nerves haven't all rewired. But yeah, pretty traumatic experience to be laying on the ground and not knowing if you're gonna walk again, and
mm,
kind of some pretty heavy thoughts are going through your head in that moment, and
yeah,
you kind of got a lot of stuff you got to unpack, and it's I'm very like I'm super grateful that a lot of people don't feel that and then come back.
the same.
There's not
Mm,
well like there's very rare that you have a spinal cord injury and then you will recover as well as I have.
yeah,
So I fully understand the gravity of how lucky I am, which is something that and still like I'm not 100%, but I'm so much better than 99.9% of people that would
do-
hit a tree doing 40 k's an hour head first. So yeah.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. I actually did have a question I wrote down about when the deep thoughts. I said you said you were going through.
Mm.
Um, uh, I was listening to your one of the Q&As you did about like your recovery updates,
Mm.
and you said it was the first time you prayed to God,
Mm.
and you're not a religious man. I was just gonna ask, why in that almost moment of despair, I guess you could say, and uncertainty, why did you pray? And what did you pray to, I guess, as well?
I don't know the answer, but I don't know why I did. Like I don't know if anyone would actually know the answer to that, but I was scared. I was really scared.
Yeah.
And I know that in a point when people are gonna either die or in a serious state where their life's in threat, they seem to go to whatever they think God is.
Mm.
And I remember making a deal with him that I said, if you give me back the feeling in my body or give me back I think I just said my legs or my, like, if you give me back my body, I'll help as many people as I possibly can in whatever way I can. So he gave it back. So I've got to
Yeah.
uphold my end of the deal now.
That's crazy.
But yeah, that's the first time, and I wouldn't like someone made us. I don't know who. I'm not super religious. I feel like being a good person doesn't mean you have to go to church or anything like that. I think it's
Mm.
just being a generally good person,
Yeah.
being good to other people. I think that's enough for me. But yeah, um, in that moment, I thought he was someone that I wanted to talk to,
Yeah.
and yeah, I got the feeling back. So I got to uphold my end of the deal, and I've got a few things in mind of what I want to do to help other people. But yeah, that was the first time I ever prayed ever really. So
Yeah. Wow. Would you be okay with sharing what the things you have in mind are?
with
Or
that,
would you be okay with sharing the things you have in mind to help other people? Or are they a
the
bit...
the big one I want to do, and I've talked about it a bit, but it's one of those things, you know, when you sometimes when you talk about things you're gonna do, it's like almost that's just a bit of an ego trip
Mm.
to like look at me, but I'm like, you haven't done shit yet.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's like, people that just a lot of talk.
Mm.
Yep.
And I know if I say something, I'm going to do it. And I've said it a few times now, and I said it on a few people's podcasts. So I know I have to do it now.
Yeah.
I'm not one to pull out, but I want to ride from the bottom of Australia in Tasmania, the very point to the top of Australia, and try and do it. In
Holy.
the quickest time ever done.
Like world record.
World record, yeah. So that's
Gangster.
the goal. But I want to do it and raise awareness around mental health, in particular, like youth, like young mental health, because that's something I suffered with when I was younger, and something that I'm quite passionate about. So I feel like that's a really good cause to get behind, and I want to test myself. And I think the spinal cord injury and coming back from that, it just adds to the story.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully next year, maybe around September, October, November, I might try and do it if
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I'm healthy and fit enough that I can.
That's super cool.
But yeah, that's a goal that I want to set in place, and I kind of look at it as something that's just like, it's going to be hard, but it's also going to be really cool.
And I'm sure it'll be rewarding too.
Super rewarding,
Yeah.
man. Super rewarding. I think you should always find things and put, like, one thing when I retired from racing, that's always been such a challenge that you've got to overcome. And I think life should be full of challenges. I think so many people want this comfortable life where everything's easy. And I was like, comfortability will kill you. Like,
Yeah.
hard things will teach you and make you grow. Like, that's what life is more about, in my opinion. So I know that in those hard times, when you're in those states, or if you're riding and you're pushing yourself every day, and it's going to teach you a lot about yourself. And if it can inspire other people to help more people, then that's good. And if it can raise some money for people that need it, that's good as well. So things like that. And that's the next big thing in my mind. But I know,
Yeah.
I'm sure something else will come up, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the things will flow into it. So, and even just with the podcast, like, I want to talk to people that I feel like have cool stories that can help other people. Like,
Yeah.
just be a light. Like, be a light that shines so bright that it helps other people when their lights are turned off. So yeah, just try and carry that with me, with what I do and where I go.
That's super cool.
Mm.
You said, just backtracking a bit, you said comfortability will kill you.
Mm.
And has there been a time, like, in your life that you feel you've come to a point of comfort and you needed to kind of get out of that? If so, like, how did you do that?
Never. Kind of. It's hard to get comfortable when you race mountain bikes professionally. Hey, like, there's always a certain level of risk that comes along with it. So I don't. I guess in a way, when I was like, where I was living before moving up here was like a smaller kind of town.
Mhm.
And I guess in a way that was comfortable. I had my family there. I had a friendship circle. I had like a job that you get up, you do this, you do that. You don't so much get challenged, and it is comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think when you're in those states, that's the best time to jump and feel that fear and feel that uncertainty. And then that's why I moved up here. I lived out of my van for about a month and just came up the coast and ended up sleeping in it near the beach and trying to find a rental property and just change my life up, meet new people, just go put yourself out there,
Right.
more or less. And then even when obviously the racing ended, I was like, okay, I need something. What's the next thing? And then I'm creating a business. Like, that's a new challenge. I'm not comfortable right now. I'm trying to set something up. It's like, it's all these things. But I think when things are hard, that should be like, it's a prerequisite to success, is something being hard, or success in the way of you're proud of that success. And I think so many people shy away from hard things. But like, even now, I'll get days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is hard. This sucks. I'm by myself. I'm spending lots of money. No one's around. I got to, like, late night, like all these things. And then I stop and I go, okay, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks.
The train's headed in the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of people in those states, they go, this is hard, and they jump off the train. And this comes back to, things are normally not as bad as you think they are, and they'll probably get better than what you think they will.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, stay on the train. Like, when is anything you've really appreciated and cared for and been happy with in the end, when has that not been hard in the process to get to there? And you think about everything worthwhile.
Yeah.
You're saying you're a muso.
Yeah.
I guarantee when you first started playing an instrument, you hated it.
Yeah.
You're like, I suck at this.
Yeah.
And then you weather the storm, you get better, and then it's enjoyable. It's like,
It's like surfing.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like anything, and there's such a good thing, and I think this is um, something that where I relate ice baths to, because when you see people get into an ice bath, there's all this fear. They're like, oh, it's cold. I'm gonna hop in. It's gonna suck. I'm gonna feel a certain way, and you can relate an ice bath to anything, like a skill that you want to learn. So just relate surfing, ice bathing. You're scared of the ocean. You're scared about you're gonna suck. You're not gonna be fit. You're nervous, but you haven't actually tried it. So with an ice bath as well, you're nervous. You don't want to get in. Anyway, you get in. It sucks. It's cold. You get in the ocean with a surf. It sucks. You can't paddle. You get slammed by waves.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in the ice bath for 5 minutes. Okay, it's my body's going a little bit numb. I'm getting used to it. My breathing's getting better. You're on the surfboard. Oh, my arm's getting stronger. I'm getting fitter. Oh, I might catch the odd wave now.
Yeah.
10 minutes go past. I'm completely numb. I'm relaxed. I'm breathing. You're on the surfboard. I'm surfing waves now. I'm enjoying it. It's not that bad. You get out. That was the best thing I ever did. I feel great now. You get out of the ocean. That was the best thing I ever did. But it's that process of knowing, telling yourself this story that it's going to suck, overcoming that story that you tell yourself to then actually do the thing, knowing that when you do the thing, you're not going to be good at it for a long period of time,
Yeah.
but still showing up to it, and then getting better and getting better. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. It's second nature now, and I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
But there's always that process of going through that. And people get to that point where they suck and it's painful and they don't want to be here. And then they jump off. And they never get to that point when they're like, oh, this is easy and I love
This is
this now.
fun.
But it's just, you got to stay in the water on the board for that period of time. Yeah.
You got to suck for a while and
Yeah, and
be
it's
okay
okay
with
to
it.
suck, man. It's okay to suck. And it's so good to suck at something, because every time you do it, you get so much better at it. Like, I don't get that much better when I go mountain biking.
Yeah.
You get to that point where you plateau. But if I go surfing, man, I learn like 10%. I get 10% better pretty much every surf, because I'm from zero. So you get these big
Yeah.
jumps, and that's the progression's so fun. And that's what I was saying about the podcast. Like, you'll get way better at podcasting each episode.
Yeah.
And it will be like, oh my God, like this is new. So every time I do a new guest, oh my God, you get this extra jump, and you get this extra jump, and that's a big hit of dopamine, man.
Yeah.
Getting 10-20% better at something in one episode or one surf or whatever it is, like that's like
Huge.
massive. And I think it's like, just try and enjoy that for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That is cool. How did bike riding, like your not even mental state, but how did bike riding change for you? I guess like going from just like doing it for fun as like a kid to like a pro. Like how did that,
Killed
how did your mindset change? Did you like enjoy it anymore, or
Nah, I killed it. The first year I went pro, I hated it.
what's
The
that?
Last year. Because it went from something I wanted to do for fun to something I had to do for work. And I didn't realize how I would. I heard this line the other day, and it was just like, there's beauty in the struggle, and there's something, what was it? It's like a J. Cole song. And it's like, there's beauty in the struggle, and I think there's like something, it's like there's something, it's like something wrong in the success. I really wish I could think of it right now. But, what is it? It's anyway, so like the whole idea is this, in the like, it comes back to the struggle and what's hard. There's so much good stuff in that. And in the success, that sometimes there's stuff in the success that you didn't expect. So from the outside, you've just got a professional ride. You should be happy as. Just not happy as. It killed it. I remember I didn't want to ride my bike anymore. I had the worst season of my entire career in 2016. I did 2015. I had a proper ride, but I got flights and bikes, but no money. I was like, wasn't making anything. I got third in Lenzerheide. I got 12th in the overall. I was like coming up. I was the fastest like up and coming racer, and then got signed to Intense. Got a professional deal. Got paid, and then I just hated riding my bike. To be completely honest with you.
That's so crazy to think, because like from an outside as a privateer, I'm like, that is what I want. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm sick of working. It's actually quite almost bizarre to hear that.
It's
In a way,
it's just like the whole, be careful what you wish for,
mm,
and not everything seems as it seems. Like, I had the most fun I ever had racing World Cups was when I was living out of a transit van with Jack and Joey Voda and all that. By far,
really.
by far. And you don't, and like a lot of, this is the thing, man. It's like people look at successful people as being this like beacon of like, that's the life that because it's portrayed that way, but that's not always the case. Like you can be happy as like like just bumming along in a van, riding your bikes with your mates. Like a lot of time, that's way more fun. And it's one of those things like always like you look at Aaron Gwyn when he did his first race. He got 10th and he was doing bar humps at the bottom on Yeti. I
Yeah.
guarantee he was having more fun doing that than probably when he's like, I got to win now. I've won the last however many races.
Yeah.
Like this expectation and pressure gets put on you that can elevate people and people love it and some people absolutely hate it and it can ruin something for some people. That's like it's even now, man. Like I really enjoy photography, and people are like, "Oh, you should start shooting stuff," and it's like, be careful what you get paid to do, because as soon as you put a dollar figure on your art, whether that's racing, like I consider that like an art form, it tarnishes it in some way, because now you have something to rate what you do. So if you get paid X amount of money, that's like, okay, you're at this level as a racer. Or I take photos, we'll pay you this much. So I'm like, you think what I do is worth that. So now you have a value to my art. And that's gonna, and then you go, okay, well, if I'm worth that, but then I think it's worth this, and then they don't want to pay it. Oh, they don't like it. Or they don't think it's to that standard. So then that's the thing that you have to come across. Like that's something that you will feel if you put yourself out there. It's like, what is my art worth?
That's something I definitely like relate to, like 100% from, because obviously I release my own music and that kind of thing. But to see, I heard this quote a while ago, and I don't know the percentage, but it said a certain percentage of people that start getting paid from their hobbies don't enjoy their hobbies anymore.
No, man.
And it's crazy. Like when I started gigging, I kind of it wasn't huge, but I did sort of go through this kind of thing. I'm like, I don't know if I like it as much or love it as much, but I think you get to a place whether it's you're just pushing on and persevering, or something shifts. And for me, I don't know exactly what it was, but something shifted within me, and I said, okay, no, I want to do this to make money. That's not the only reason I wanted to do it, but that was, I could make money out of this. I'm gonna go for that. But definitely, even seeing like the statistics behind the streams behind my songs or whatever, it comes back to that value. People are putting this much value. I'm only getting this many streams. It's hard to look at sometimes.
It's a tricky thing, yeah.
And for me, like I didn't get very many streams on the EP that I released. I worked so hard for it, and I was bummed, man. I was like, far out. I didn't get as much as I want. So I definitely kind of relate to that, and not in the same way, but there's definitely a correlation there.
But so you're putting your expectation or you're putting your value down to quantity. Why, like, if 100 people listen to it and 99 people absolutely love it, is that better or worse than if 1,000 people listen to it and 10 people like it?
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this whole thing, and we live in a world now where likes and views, that's value.
Yeah.
But realistically, and like that's something, I agree. Like I look at podcast numbers, and if I put a podcast out and it has lots of numbers, I'm happy. If you put it out, it doesn't get that many, oh, I'm sad.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's like, did you enjoy making that? Did you put everything you had into that? Yeah. So that's a win.
Yeah.
I always tell people when I did like a podcast with Simon French recently, the guy who owns Medina Bike Park, and I finished it and I was like, I really enjoyed that. That was a good conversation. I'm happy as with that. And luckily it did good numbers, but if it didn't, it doesn't, like, that's good.
Yeah.
In my head. And it's like, you need to go have that thought process, whether when you brought out your music or when you bring out a podcast. If you're happy with how you spoke, if you're happy with the person you talk to, if everything is good, then that is a good product. And like, just because it might not be received by as many people as you would like, putting that number figure on it, because it's like, you never, okay, so you do an episode, oh, I hope we get 10,000 views. It gets 10,000 views. Okay, I'm stoked. Next week, okay, now we want to get 15,000 views. Oh no, I got 6,000 views. I'm bummed.
Yeah.
It's like this constant, like you're determining views. Your happiness is being determined by other people's input. That like it doesn't matter. It's like if you do your best work, people will hopefully receive that as it's being your best work and keep like growing. But you can't just get stuck. It's like you get stuck in comments and views and likes, and it's this like toxic world that isn't, you're never gonna get, like when it's all these, I heard a statistic and it talks about they interviewed all these millionaires, and they're like, how much money would you need before you're happy? And it's always some stupid, like, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
And you're okay, I got $100 million. I'll be happy when I have $200 million. It's like you always want more. Like, as humans, we always want more. We're always like next, next, and it's like this whole idea. They talk about like athletes being broken because they don't have a turn. They can't turn off. They're always trying to feed or fill something. It's like this idea is like I need something. Like, what's enough? Because that's the thing. It's like when you ask yourself, it's like, okay, how much money would you need? Okay, that's enough. And it's like, how many views would you need? Okay, that's enough. And normally people that are really driven, they can't turn themselves off because it's like, what is enough? And you look at someone even like Greg Minaj, who's the greatest of all time, but he can't turn his brain off. He's still doing. He's 42 years old, and it's like sweet, but I'm like, dude, what's enough?
Yeah.
And then I guarantee when he stops racing, there's gonna be he's gonna have a mental battle of like, okay, who's Greg Minaj now, and whatever he does after that, like he's gonna obviously have to find something that he puts that energy into because he has so much of it that he's put into cycling and racing for so long. But it's people always look at successful people and envy them, but there's a certain point where you go, okay, I like the fact that I can turn my brain off and I know what enough is. And I don't think a lot of people would want to live someone else's life if they knew the thoughts and processes and how they went day to day. Like most successful people, and I know like personally for me when I was like in that mindset of like trying to be the best in the world at something, like it's good if you want to be the best in the world at something, but it's also very destructive and disruptive into like day to day life and other things in your life. So I think it's trying to balance that, but you got to be selfish. You got to be really selfish for yourself, being an athlete. And you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to be selfish anymore. I want to help other people, not just me. And it's hard to be an unselfish athlete, I find,
Right.
that knows when to turn it off.
Yeah. I mean, not from an athlete's point of view, but I definitely feel, and even from what I've heard from, like, even my mum, she's like, Isaac, you need to learn to turn your brain off. Like, I feel like that's something I'm definitely going to have to battle with
Um,
at some point. But yeah.
About the selfishness, did you think that affected your relationships with people outside racing?
Yeah, 100%.
How so?
For example, like I went over to Europe this year and I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, "Come over to Europe. Like, you need to come over to Europe. You need to watch me race." And she at the time, and still now, she was trying to build her business up. And I was like, "No, come over. I'll pay for a ticket. I'll get you over here. Come watch me race. It's my last year." And she's like, "I've got my business. I've got to build up." And I'd always view it in my head. It's like, well, mine somehow seems more important because it's like bigger and more shiny. But it's like, if she's like, "Oh, I want you to stay in Australia and help me with my business," I'd be like, "No way, I got to do my thing." So like, why does my thing trump your thing? But that's the whole thing. It's like, because it's in Europe, because I'm gonna pay for it. Like, if you put those things in front of it, you're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. That's big." But I'm like, okay, why does my job trump your job? And why is it because I want you there that you should come when you've got stuff you need to do? And it's that mindset. I guess my job always seemed more important than other people's job because it was like a World Cup race. So like, you go around the world, you race mountain bikes, and I'm like, but why does that trump someone that works at a bank or someone that is a hairdresser or like whatever it may be? Why does that trump that? And it's like, I'd miss birthdays, I'd miss weddings, I'd miss all these things because I'm like, I got to be in Europe, I got to be at a World Cup. You miss all that stuff, and it's people accept it and they're okay with it. But that's all for me.
Do you regret that slightly?
I don't regret it because I knew it was part of the job. But again, I'm happy I retired
Yeah.
because my values have shifted from what they were. So I knew where I was getting more of my happiness from, and I was like, I need to go into that. And I know myself enough now that I don't need to keep doing that thing just because I've always done it.
Yeah.
And I've found it in other places. But there's there's a tax you pay being a World Cup racer from Australia that I don't think a lot of people realize, because it is cool. And I'm not saying that it's not something you should go after, shouldn't go after, because I enjoyed doing it for the last 10 years. But relationships are going to struggle, friendships are going to struggle, connections, like solid connections with people will struggle in a certain way. It's just, you can't be two places at once. So it's just something that comes with it. But it comes back, what are your values? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And only you know that. So it's like in the moment, you've got to be very self-aware of where you're at and then act to your true self and not act because of where your team wants to see you or your family or your friends or anyone else. It's like, what do I want to do? And actually know the answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Josh, stop swinging on your chair. You'll be able to just see the back of your.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm a fidgeter, man. I'm
Yeah.
like literally one of the biggest fidgeters. Like I'll be twirling my fingers, clicking pens. At school one time, like at school, man, I would swing on my chair so much that like in primary school, my teacher would take my chair off me.
Now look at you. Now you're just going to be like waving, spinning around.
Yeah.
You've been like
Do a
this
full
the whole time.
Yeah.
full 360.
I just have to be moving all the time.
True. What do you reckon that is?
I can't turn my brain off. I think I just have to be go, go, go as well all the time.
Do you do any breath work?
Nah. I surf and hold my breath when I get smoked.
That's not
You
breath
don't do
work.
the breath work anymore in the pools and stuff.
Not really. I haven't done that for a while. But
Mm.
no. I haven't.
Any takeaway from this? Probably do some breath work and read books.
Yeah, I actually have been reading books.
Yeah, it'll help a lot, man. Biggest thing that helps me with podcasting is reading.
Yeah.
So I think it's super beneficial.
I've already learned so much off these podcasts. It's crazy, man. I've learned so much. I'm like, you're just a ball of wisdom. I'm like, just gaining as much as I can. It's sick.
That's why I'd want to do more podcasts, man. Because like I said, everything you know is an expert at something you know nothing about, and to be able to not only receive that and learn from it, but then share it with everyone else is such a powerful, fulfilling thing. And then it comes back to, it's like, okay, what makes you feel good? Like, what makes you feel really good? And I guarantee you have a few things that you'll be like, yeah, that and this and that, but you'll start to figure yourself out more. And one thing for me was when I do a podcast with someone and I would share a message and people would then come back to me and go, that really helped me. Like, that helped me in this positive way, and I've changed my habits, or I've changed something in my life, and that's been really rewarding. I'm like, oh man, like
Yeah,
that's
geez.
that's addictive.
Honestly, I can relate to that because you've done that for me on multiple occasions.
Well, it's like you said, you went to
Even the other day when you sent me that voice message about the structure behind grinding,
yeah,
like I couldn't even respond to that. Like I did leave you. I didn't reply to that, but I was like so like he struck and had
Yeah.
to process that I actually couldn't
yeah,
like formulate a reply. So I honestly just took a little break from like getting up at 4:30 and going to the gym, and like because I was like so determined because I just broke my scaphoid. I'm coming back from the scaphoid. I was so like, this is going to be the fastest scaphoid recovery ever. I'm going to be back on the bike. I need to get back to work to earn money to go back over. And I was just like, okay, I've got all these things to do. And I was like, it wasn't structured. It was like super on like how I was feeling, which was super negative. Like I would get home. So I'd get home and I'd be like, scroll on Instagram and be like, oh, this person's riding. Oh, far out, far out. Well, what can I do to make up? And I would go back to the gym.
yeah,
And I was like, he's like, you need structure behind grinding. I was like, yeah, he's right. I need to focus more and have like an actual plan. And yeah, that honestly helped me a lot. So thank you.
That's okay. You can't just bash your head against the wall, man. Like you can't. You got to know the direction you want to go. Like even if you hop in your car and you just like put your foot on the throttle, like where are you going? Like you don't know where you're going to end up. So you've got to put in a Google Maps. I want to get to here,
Yeah.
and it's going to show you the way to get there. But you've got to figure out what turns you make and what you put into yourself and everything that comes along with that. But that's the whole like, and then I hope eventually like you pass that on to someone. Like that's the thing. It's like, it's just a nice feeling to see someone that you've helped actually take on board and then not only better themselves but then help someone else. Like it's such a positive flow-on effect. And it's just this net positive thing when you can like be a good person and then that other person becomes a good person and they help someone else, and it's like it's
like a chain reaction.
yeah,
almost.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just a good feeling, man. Like there's and that's like life's about like good feelings and good moments, and I'm like if you can create more of those, then like why wouldn't you? And that's just like if you can do it on a larger scale, then like why wouldn't you either? It's like if you've got the opportunity to do something, do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we sat and talked in the car for ages about that because I was in Shell Harbour literally last weekend, and Josh was talking to me. Oh yeah, Dean sent me this thing. Tell me what you think. So I listened to it. And I'm like, yeah, he's 100% right. 100%.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I battled with that for a good while, man. Like that structure, because I didn't have any of that. I was just like, so do things on just feelings. I was so
If
like,
you got a coach or something in your life, even like a fitness coach.
Tim Butler's a mentor, sort of acts as a mentor to me.
Yeah, but do you have like an actual someone in like a gym or someone to go on? I feel like you need someone to kind of not keep you accountable because I know you'll show up,
Mm.
but I don't think it's the showing up thing that's the issue. I think it's like the structured and like someone to be like, Josh, you can chill. You can chill today. Let's go for a spin. Like let's do something. Like I think you more need that. You need someone to almost verify that what you're doing is right.
Yeah.
And like then you wouldn't probably have so much like head noise about what you're doing. And I think like I've always had really good years when I've got a coach, even if it's just a fitness coach. It's just someone to bounce thoughts off and how you feel, and it's almost a therapist in a way.
Mm.
But every time I've had really good years, I've always had someone to like chat with and just be there, and it kind of just keeps you it keeps you level headed. So I think that would probably be moving forward. Get someone like that in your life that you can just maybe see once or twice a week, and I think it'd be super beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
All good, bro.
I appreciate it.
No, it's all good. But there'll be someone, like, I'm sure you'll be able to find someone that'd be like, all right, we're doing this twice a week. And you're like, all right. And they'll show you. It's like you said, again, someone that's an expert you know nothing about. Go see someone that's an expert. Go see someone that's doing something you've seen that you're like, oh my God, he's getting after it. He's doing it. And you go, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
And then attach yourself to him. It's literally, it's easy as that. It's like, see people that you are doing things that you want to do, and then just try and be around them as much as you can. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Like, you will become your environment. If you're around good people, you're around driven people, you're around healthy people, you're around fast people.
You'll become them things.
Yeah. And you do it subconsciously as well at a certain point. At the start, it'll be conscious, and then you'll start doing things that they're doing, speaking how they're speaking, eating what they're eating. It's like you level up with them. So it's like you just got to surround yourself with people that are doing the things you want to actually do. And there's that thing about like it's it was one thing where it's like it's really hard for people to let go of normality in friendship groups and in family and in all these things because again it comes back to comfortability. If you're in a group of people, you're comfortable. You got
Yeah.
friends, you got your family, you got all this stuff, but you have this different idea of where you see your life or how you see your values or how you see where you see yourself going. And when you separate yourself because you start being different, you're going to lose that comfortability. You're going to lose those friends. You're going to lose that connection with your family. And that could be seen as something really bad because there's going to be a period of time when you've lost those friends and you're going to have a period of time where you don't have new friends.
So it's like a period of isolation, really.
There's a period of isolation, and that's the thing when you got to go, okay, well, what do I really want out of this, and who do I want to be around? And you'll figure it out, and then you'll start putting yourself in situations where people will come up to you and be like, I'm doing the exact same thing that you want to do, and I can connect with you on such a similar level that you're like, oh, these are my people, and then you'll find them and you'll be like, what was I ever doing before? But you've got to go through that point of isolation. But a lot of time in that point of isolation, you'll realize, okay, what do I want to do? Like, who is Josh, and what does Josh want to get out of this? And once you figure that out, then you start putting yourself in situations, in groups, in places where it's like, oh, these people are doing what I want to do, and it's so easy to connect with them because it's not like you're trying to pretend to be someone else to just fit in with people you don't want to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In those situations, if you find that people are coming to you for that kind of stuff, how do you obviously there's a certain level to that where it's draining, not in a bad way, but everything takes energy in some regards. How do you find you have the energy to
How do you mean when people are coming to me? Like in what way?
well, you said that if people come to you, I can click with you on this level and I'd like to just be around, even if they're new to the game, right? Like, okay, I'll be fully honest, right? This might, don't take this the wrong way. It might come across a bit harsh, but right, Josh, being around you, he's trying to glean so much information off you and whatnot. The reality is there's a certain level of energy that takes to okay, Josh, how about you try and do this? There's all this energy comes, and I'm sure there might not be, but there might be other people that are doing that. How do you
Mm.
find the energy to do that?
You just got to know yourself and how much you can give,
Right.
and you've got to understand when, and you've got to know when to say no,
Mm.
and you've got to be able to say no, and you've got to learn to be able to say no to more people. I think like I'm somewhat big in the mountain biking community, but that's still tiny in the grand scheme of everything. So to do a podcast with you guys, it's not hard. It's not hard, and it will, I'm sure someone will listen to it, and enjoy it, and it'll be a cool thing. But I think when you obviously level up in fame, a lot more people start ringing, and there's a certain point when you go, okay, I got to have a hard stop on this because you burn out.
Right.
But that all comes back to only you know you, and you know the things that will push you over the edge, and you also know the things that will bring you back from the edge.
Yep.
So it all comes back to your self-awareness and where you're at. And I think being a yes man's great, but you can only be a yes man if you know your own triggers and your own processes to get yourself back from the edge, and also what will get you to the edge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, I'm doing this is fine because I want to do it. I think it's cool what you guys are doing. I know what it's like to start a podcast, and it takes a lot of effort, and people might not see it because they think you're just talking into a mic, but you got cameras, you got to drive here, you got to set it up. It's work. So I'm like, I'm happy to put effort back into that, but I don't think, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to give a lot of your energy. You just got to know when to like cut it off when it's too much, and know you just got to know yourself when that is.
Yeah. And how did you, I guess, build that self-awareness?
It's one of those things. It's like you just kind of do.
Yeah.
I think you get pushed over the edge. Like I don't think you only know where the edge is when you go over it.
Hmm.
And I think you again like if you're not feeling good and things aren't you know yourself when you're in your best self. You know when you're feeling good, and you know when you're feeling bad. And it's just being aware. It's like, okay, I feel bad. What am I not doing?
Right.
Or I feel bad. What am I doing? And then you got to like look at that and go, okay, I should probably stop doing this or that, or hanging out with them, or maybe I need to sleep more, or maybe I need to go to the gym. Like it's like you know,
Mm.
like this whole thing where it's like I would always ask kids when they would come up to me and said, oh, like how do I get faster? I go,
I would have been one of them kids.
but I just asked him, I was like, how do you think you get faster? And they're like, oh, I'd probably ride more, like maybe like twice a week or 3 times a week. I'm like, yeah, what else do you think you do? Probably start going to the gym, I reckon. Yeah, what else? Oh, probably eat better because I don't eat that good. It's like, yeah, anything else? Maybe I'd stretch a bit. Like I'm always quite sore. And they put this list out. And I was like, do that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know exactly what you need to do. Everyone knows exactly what they need to do. It's knowing is not the issue. It's actually acting and having the discipline to act on what you know you need to do.
Mm.
But if you ask most people, they'll like everyone kind of with the technology where we are, it's like you can even just ask ChatGPT, how do I become a good podcaster? How do I become a good mountain biker? Like you literally have a computer telling you exactly what to do now, even if you don't know, but you probably do.
Yeah.
So that's not the challenge. Knowing isn't the challenge. It's acting upon what you know is the challenge.
I think that also, like for me, the way I think about things, I like to talk about it and articulate it. So sometimes for people, it might not just be, oh, I don't know, or they know it, but they don't know how to articulate. So it's just subconscious.
Mm.
Like, and that's definitely the case for me. Like, I think obviously my mum's a big one. Like when I talk to my mum, I often find that I can figure out what I'm thinking about because I'm very much go from A to B and miss a lot of this middle section and the steps to get there. And my mum is very much about this middle section. So I think it's very important to kind of find those people to talk to get that middle section, to get those steps, as well as I know what I've got to do, but it's so hard to explain. It's very like, I think subconsciously I know what to do, but consciously I don't know how to articulate that almost. I think that.
And that's where really good like mentors and stuff come into play because they fill those gaps and they keep you accountable and they help you show up. And when it's a shit day and you're around people that have gone through what you are going through, and go, it gets better, and you go, okay, maybe it does. Like you've done this. I trust you. You've gone through it. and they'll pull you out of where you're at.
Yeah.
But it's like if you can find, if you surround yourself with people like that, it's like they're like your life vest when it gets hard.
Yeah.
I think good people, good friends, good family members, all that'll keep you above water. But you need to obviously have those relationships and build them and keep them strong to let them be there. So you
Yeah.
need to keep them inflated so they can keep you above water.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it,
Yeah.
definitely. And kind of not shifting gears, but I heard this saying, new level, different devil. When you kind of were going from racing juniors, and I don't know much about the bike riding, how it all works, but when you're going from kind of just racing under 18s to then juniors and pros and whatnot, what did you find were the different devils at the newer than the higher levels?
Well, that kind of comes back to when I got my professional ride and I hated it.
Right.
It's all that. It's like every time you conquer a level or perceive that you conquer a level, there's another challenge. But that's not. Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
It comes back to, okay, now I've got to figure out how to beat this level and go up again.
Mm.
But like imagine playing a game and you just walk through it and you won every level without doing anything. Would you want to play it?
No.
I don't want to play it.
No.
So what's the point? But then in the same breath, we complain about the challenges.
Yeah.
So it's like if you look at something and it comes back to anything worth doing will carry with it a certain level of hard or a devil or whatever you want to call it. And it's like you've got to learn to fall in love with that challenge or with that hardship or with that devil or whatever you want to call it, because that will make you level up and keep leveling up. It's like everyone's like such a cliche thing, but it's like if you're nervous about something, if you have fear attached to it, it's like you're on the right track, keep going. Like, okay, this is scary, this is a lot, this is going to be hard. Okay, you're on the right track, keep going. And it's just having to reinforce that in yourself that if it was easy, like the whole everyone would do it thing is such a real thing. And that's why people do easy things, because they don't want to do hard shit. They don't want to have that feeling of, oh, I could lose or oh, I could go wrong. Because they look like this whole idea of like manifesting is just looking at the situation you want and then putting all the steps in place to make that happen. It's like visualization. See yourself doing the thing you want to do and then just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I manifest as like, if you can see the thing that you want, like that's such a powerful thing to be like, all right, I see myself there. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what goal if you have like as a singer, like see yourself on stage, thousands of people out in front of you, feel that. Like I used to do visualization when I was driving in my car, and I'd pretend I was at like a World Cup and I'd finished and I'd just like won and there's people around me, and like I'd be crying in my car, like full on tears crying in my car, because I was in that moment. I was so in that moment. I could feel the emotions, and I've had more emotions come out of me through visualization months before races than actually being on the podium or winning a race.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane.
So that's like, and people say that, and then I talked to someone about this the other day, and they're like, "Do you reckon it's because you've already lived it?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, wow.
So it's like it's this thing where taking that emotion is building the fuel to achieve that goal, but in doing that, you're diluting the actual victory because you've already felt the emotion out of it. It's like you
Right.
pulled a bit of that emotion and you've just brought it back from when it was actually going to happen.
Do you think that's a good thing then to do that?
If it makes you achieve the goal, I think so. I think you need as much fuel as you can get. So I think visualization, to anyone that doesn't do it, is one of the most powerful things you can do, and I don't think you could really underestimate the power that it has over pushing you forward. Like I can remember so clearly so many times I'd just be driving in my car and literally just bawling my eyes out because I'm just like achieved this thing. And I remember when I got my first podium at a World Cup, I was like, cool. I didn't cry. I wasn't as emotional as I was in this car like 4 months before. It was just like, sweet.
wow.
And like, you almost,
That was actually one of my questions, but thank you for answering.
yeah, but it's funny, man. And like, it might seem weird, but I like, think of something you really want to do and then imagine the emotion of it actually happening. Like how good that would feel, no matter where that is, and like really feel it. Like see yourself, see the crowd, see the people in the front row, see your family around you like feel all that emotion, and like that would be like, yep, that's what I want that. And then that's when you get up at 4 a.m. and go for the run, or you stay at work later and put that extra effort in because you're like, man, if that's what that feeling's like, I want that again and again and again kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Mm.
yeah.
And
If, oh, you can go. You go.
I think that a lot of people often say that when you tie so much emotion to things, you can lose focus. And I think for me, by nature, I tend to be a little bit emotional, but I've learned to almost almost select when the right time is to use my emotions. Do you think that 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 is one of those times, and or do you think that sometimes that can get in the way?
How do you mean exactly? So you're saying using your emotions can be like beneficial in certain.
So I'm of the belief that sometimes my emotions, or not myself personally, but anyone's emotions can overcome them, and the straight idea of what they wanted to do kind of goes out the window.
So
It's almost
you're saying they're
overtaken.
kind of like acting out of emotion, not out of logic in a
Yeah.
way. It depends on the situation.
Right.
I think like if you're racing mountain bikes or a boxer or something where it's like a high, like, okay, this is a high pressure situation, you probably don't want to act out of emotion. You probably want to act out of logic, or else it'd probably go wrong. But I can imagine a situation when, I don't know, just for example, maybe like you're in love with someone and logic gets kind of thrown out the window and you kind of go forward with your heart on your sleeve, and then sometimes that's better. So
Yeah. And so,
emotion can go either way.
yeah. Do you find that those visualizations ever, the emotion behind those visualizations ever took over the logic when you needed to race?
Nah, not really, because I most of the time that those visualizations were months before I was even at the track.
Right.
Like I didn't really visualize much. Like sometimes I'd visualize my run and stuff at a
Right.
race, but it doesn't. What do you say? You need the discipline and the motivation months before the event.
Mm.
Like you don't win the race at the race.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you've won. That didn't all happen in those 2 days. Like that's a big chunk of it. That's a big part of it. Like you started winning that race 4 months ago when you were on the road bike, when you're at the gym, when you were setting your bike up, when you were working out team stuff. Like it's such a long build. But I believe that having the discipline back there and like using the visualization as a form of like motivation to then create that discipline is where you start to win the race.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you actually visualize? Like to someone who doesn't know, like how would you even go about like we just said, oh,
I
felt the emotions in my car and this, but for someone who doesn't know how to do it, how would they be like, oh, I can't see what I want to do? Like how would you visualize? Actually, how do you do it?
I think for me, I do it a lot of time when I'm driving, so I don't need to close my eyes. But for someone that hasn't done it before, I'd probably just close my eyes, try and find a quiet place where there's not much going on, then close your eyes and just think about the thing that you really want. Like think about the thing you really want, whether that's a race or a job or a girl or something like that. And now see yourself, like look at yourself in that situation and look at yourself how it would look, how that would look to you. Like you imagine your dream future almost, and then put yourself in that. So just say, for me, it was always racing, and I'd always visualize myself like crossing the line, and I'd always like visualize myself going up to like the Red Bull presenter, and I'd be doing an interview and like the finish line, and they're like, "How was your run?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, it was so good," or whatever. Like that's what I would think about. But really see the person, see the microphone, see the person, hear the noise, like just like think about everything. Like it's like if you were at a World Cup, what would it sound like? Sirens, people cheering, there's flares, there's like feel that, see that. Like it's like you have to create that in your mind. And I'm sure some people would be way better at it than others, but if it's something that you're not good at, just keep practicing, man. Like I said before, maybe breath work, calm yourself down, relax yourself, and then just really try and think about like a smell. Think about like, okay, it's just started raining. It's like that rain on wet grass at a World Cup, and it's just like think of the emotion that creates. And I think just it's just seeing yourself in the situation you want to see yourself in. Like what is the best version of you or the best situation for you look like? And then just put yourself in there mentally.
Mm.
And then I think that will create a life that you want to go into. Like, and I heard this thing the other day that I really like as well. If that doesn't motivate you, visualize what it would look like if you didn't change what you were doing. If you're doing something you don't want to do, visualize what your future looks like. Okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing, knowing that this isn't what I should be doing, what does my life look like in 10 years, in 20 years? And I guarantee you, if you fast forward that and you're doing stuff you know you shouldn't be doing, whether that's drinking a lot, doing drugs, not living to your full purpose, like that's going to motivate you as well. Because you go, man, I'm single, I'm living in a shit house, I work in a shit job, I'm unhealthy, I'm fat. I'm like, fuck that guy. Like that guy sucks.
Mm.
So that will motivate you as well. It comes back to the pain and pleasure thing. What motivates you? Is it pain or pleasure? If it's pleasure, visualize yourself in the best life imaginable. If it's pain, visualize yourself in the worst possible place
And try and escape it.
and
Yeah.
try and escape it. Either one, yeah. But it's up to you. It's like you know you and what works better for you, and then it's just figuring yourself out, man. Like no one else is gonna know you as much as you know you,
Yeah.
and no one else is gonna write the playbook on how you live your life and what you get the most out of, because all these people are gonna assume that you should do something because you've either always done it or they think you're happier doing that. But at the end of the day, you got to do what makes you happy, and if you don't, then what are you doing?
Mm. So here's probably a dumb question,
No dumb questions.
but like where you're visualizing the emotion months before the thing that like takes place. As a mountain biker, how is that different to like when you see the pros on the trainer doing these and visualizing like their actual run? Is that different to visualizing like the
That's still
emotions
visualizing, man.
of
But
the?
that's still visualizing. But that, I guess, it's a difference in that is they're visualizing to see where they're going, and
Mm,
I guess me in the car is visualizing. Like I guess it's the same. It's a future. It's like trying to look into the future in a way. Look at
yeah,
the future of the track. I just guess I pull more an emotional thing, where that's more of a tactical, like just trying to see the track, I guess.
yeah,
But I guess they've both got their benefit.
mm,
One's more research, the other's motivation, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah. But similar thing. When you see people doing that, it's very similar.
yeah, yeah. Because I've like my first time I actually saw people sitting on a train and visualize was at my first World Cup,
Mm.
and I was like,
What are these guys doing?
yeah. Well, I was like, I knew what they're doing. I'm like, they're visualizing. Oh, that's so sick.
I think they're a bit excessive. When they do the hand pedal thing, I'm like, get out of here with that. That's stupid. It's like you don't have to you don't pedal with your hands. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm like, oh my god, stop.
Oh yeah, it's pretty entertaining to watch. I was at the top of Andorra where I was just like, because I didn't qualify at Andorra and stuff. I just would always just go up and try watch and learn like the pros before they drop in.
Mm.
And man, Finn Isles was so funny to watch.
Oh man, like
Oh,
like the ballet dancers,
yeah,
just really. Nah, if it works for them, like he's
exactly.
going faster than me, so I can't. Maybe I
Oh,
can
he's
slap my hands around. I just thought it was always funny.
yeah.
It seems a bit like I'm like all for visualizing, but if you want to use your hands, all good.
Mm.
Just
I just didn't understand it at
just
that
not
point.
my thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't understand.
It's
Like,
pretty powerful when you see yourself in a better situation or see yourself doing something, and then once you see yourself doing it, it becomes easier to do it.
do you think that visualization's similar to like seeing yourself in a flow state or like being in a flow state?
I think it helps create it. Yeah. Yeah. I think because it creates belief.
Yeah.
If you can see yourself do something, it makes it easier to try and achieve that thing. And if you believe that you can do something, like flow states normally, I think belief is probably the number one ingredient that creates a flow state.
Mm.
If you can believe in yourself and believe that what you are doing is the right thing, that will create flow.
Yeah.
And belief is a powerful thing, man. Like I remember the last time I truly got into it, I think was 2019 World Champs in Mont Saint Anne, and I remember practicing in the morning and riding that well that I believed that I could win. And it's like I've believed I could win maybe 3 times at World Cups before.
Yeah.
Like actually, because obviously you want to win,
Yeah,
but there's a
mm.
difference between I want to win and shit, I could win. And the belief I had that morning was like, oh my God, I'm going so fast and riding so well and having so much fun. Like I could win this race. And that belief then channeled into my race run. and I ended up crashing. But I was talking about I was like first at the first split, and Loic was like 1-1-1-1-1, and he had 1-2. And it was the first split. I took one away from him, and
Yeah.
like that to me was even like to know on the world stage when I rode my best,
That you were there.
I could be one of the fastest guys in the entire world, and that to me is like such a like that was even though I'd crashed and didn't win, it was just like oh man, like to know that your best is the best is pretty insane feeling. Like think of how many people try and mountain bike in the world, and when I found that flow state and was riding my actual best and everything was channeled and working, like that is the best.
Mm.
And there's very few people that can say that about any kind of sport in the world. So to say that on that day that I could be one of those people, I'm like, that's cool. I'm glad I can say that I did that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's
you got to
powerful.
believe in yourself, man. You got to believe in yourself even before you have the resume to show
Mm.
that you actually can do that thing. The whole like fake it till you make it thing. It's just like
Yeah.
just you got to believe that okay, I'm gonna make this work
Mm.
and really believe it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote from Mike Tyson where he says, "Confidence breeds success, and success breeds confidence."
Yeah, they feed off each other.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask actually, was that the main thing that like you said, bred your confidence? Is that the main thing that was the driver and the builder of your confidence?
Confidence is built by a million different things. But like confidence is built when you wake up. Confidence is built from what you eat, who you're around, everything. So confidence and belief are very similar things, but yeah, your confidence is it comes from a assortment of different actions and moments and food and smells and all of these things that build how confident you are. But that comes back to living to your true authentic self. And if you're doing that, you're confident because you know, okay, I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right things, and then it's easy.
Was there like a single moment that you or a moment that you remember that was okay, I am on the right track?
With what in particular is racing.
Racing, riding, whatever.
Not a particular moment, hey. Like I always like when I got into it, I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
Like I knew I was really good at it. I knew I could get better and I just believed that I could. But there wasn't a moment where I was like, we're on the right track. I think I just kind of always kind of knew. Like I wasn't very good at many things. Like I wasn't that good at anything else. And then I started mountain biking and I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. And then it was like, let's keep doing this
Mm.
kind of thing. But there wasn't a moment where I was like, this is it. It just kind of you flows into itself. You just keep chasing after something, and you obviously keep catching it, and then chase something else, and then catch that, and keep going. And your expectation on yourself goes up, and the want goes up, and there's a new challenge, and then you got to overcome that. Come back to the different devil kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's just always just been something. It's like, what's the next thing I need to overcome? What's the next thing I need to conquer? Kind of thing, and you just chip away at it, and yeah,
I got a question. How you doing mentally now?
good man, good, but not great. Definitely the the come so they had three things that all happened at once that were pretty challenging to deal with. The retirement, which I'd accepted, but that's still something I did for 17 years and
Mm.
poured my life into.
Did you
My,
feel like you had to let a piece of yourself go in retiring?
not not let a piece of me go, but like I'm gonna miss it a lot because as much as it wasn't where I was getting true fulfillment and happiness from anymore, I knew how much I had gotten from it for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not where I get it from anymore, but I'm also sad that it wasn't where I got it from. It wasn't like I was happy that I fell out of love with mountain biking. Like that wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I don't love mountain biking anymore.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't love it anymore, so I shouldn't keep doing it, but I wish I could keep loving it because it was incredible. Like it was so fun to do, and I'd ride my bike and I'd almost rather be anywhere else, and like that feeling sucked. To think about something that I did for so long for free and loved every second of it, to then someone's paying you and you don't want to do it is it's kind of sad. So just coming to terms with that and and I was okay with it because I knew it was the right decision, but still to go through with it is still a bit of a mental
Mm.
strain on the best of days, to then going into the spinal cord injury,
Yeah.
which just being in so much pain, uncertainty about recovery and when feeling's going to come back, and just you're in a bit of a limbo state. You can't do that much. You're struggling. I lost all my, I lost like 10 kilos or something. I lost all my strength. Um, you get kind of viewed differently by the world. Everyone looks at you as a bit of a victim and has a lot of sympathy towards you, but
Mm.
it gets to the point where you're like, I just want to be normal. I don't want people to be like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Can
Yeah.
you do this? Like, should you do this?
Mm.
You feel like you get babied by everyone, and that's quite draining in itself, because then you don't want to see people because you don't want to be made out as being different, even though at the time you are a bit different.
Yeah.
You're you've had a serious injury, so that again, that was something that was very draining. And then the relationship I was in was failing as well, so that was kind of ending at the same time. So I had three pretty life changing or life altering things happening, all compounding on top of each other. So there was definitely there was some days there where it was pretty off it all, to be completely honest. I was
Mm.
like, what's the point in trying to be healthy? I didn't want to try and recover. I didn't even want to eat healthy. I was just eating shit food. I was not doing that much. I couldn't do that much. I was just at home most of the day. It was just, yeah, there was not a lot of excitement kind of happening in my life, and there was a lot of questioning about like, why did this happen and what went wrong and how can I change that, but also in the state of not even feeling like you want to change anything. Like, I just didn't want to do anything.
Mm.
I didn't have any motivation to try and do anything. So, um, yeah, there was some really, really shit days to come out of. But then knowing coming out of it now, even just trying to have that gratitude towards small things where you can kind of be like, okay, well, it was real bad and now it's getting better. So let's enjoy that it's getting better. But it's like anything. Life's about ups, highs, and lows. And I know from some of the lowest points I've been in, they've swung back to the highest. So it's like it will swing back, and I
Mm.
guarantee that it will. But it's just trying to find myself, I guess, again to a certain level. And again, I know how happy I can be. I know how excited I can be, and I know how much of a good person I can be when I'm living to that version of myself. And I'm just trying to find that again.
Mm.
And I'm sure we'll get back there, but I'm still, guess, in the building stage of getting fit and healthy again, um, understanding certain things that happened and why they happened, and with the relationship, with the career, with the injury, and just being okay with that. But yeah, it's just a lot of, I guess, yeah, self reflection and awareness and learning and showing up and grinding and just like a lot of stuff that to build me back to that person that I know I can be. So we're in the process of that now. I posted a thing the other day saying 2024 feels like a rebuild year,
Mm.
with the business, with my health, with relationships, with everything. It's like, let's build back to where I should be. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What were the things and the steps you took to like pull yourself out of those really, really dark places? Because you said you were isolated. I'm assuming there wasn't like, of course, there was people around you that would have
Mm.
helped, but what, like for
Trying to
yourself,
like
were the things you did to pull
big
yourself
one
out?
was, yeah, seeing people again. Like I didn't want to leave the house, but then sometimes friends would come over and they'd be like, "No, just come and do this," and I would like leave, and I went and shot some photos at this gym that I would go to, and just to have like a bit of a purpose again,
Mm.
even though it was just something small, like just to go and actually do something was such a rewarding feeling again. And then just again knowing myself well enough to be like, all right, stop eating shitty cereal, like make something good for breakfast, like that, like just that alone like made me feel way better.
Yeah,
Because like I know like just eating crap cereal is
not good.
not good, but if you like you don't even have feeling in your one of your hands and you can't like hold a knife,
Mm.
it's like, well, I'm just gonna eat cereal then.
Yeah,
And then you play on that emotion. Well, it's okay. I can't use my hand properly, so I've got to eat shit. And you justify that in your thoughts, but knowing full well that there's other things you eat some fruit, peel a banana, like there's other there's other things you can do, but you get it's so easy to get stuck in that victim mentality And I think a spinal cord injury, and I don't like saying this because I know I'm getting a lot better,
Yeah.
but a spinal cord injury can be a bit of a cop out for people seeing your excuses as being okay.
Yeah.
So it's like if I go, oh, I haven't been eating well and I haven't been doing much and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, it's okay. You've had a spinal cord injury, and
Mm.
Coddle.
they'll allow it. It's like a get out of jail free card. It's
Mm.
like, oh, you had a spinal cord injury. Oh, okay, fully understand. Like you don't have to come to the thing, and you don't have to do this and do that, and it makes it like you can just get away with not doing anything, and you can
Mm.
kind of play into that, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I am a victim. This isn't fair, and that's such a dangerous and shitty mindset to have,
Mm.
because it was like, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Why did it have to happen just before my retirement? Why, like, blah, 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 blah. You just become like, you just sound like a baby because you just complain. It's like, I believe it happened because my heart wasn't fully in it. I had to accept that, and I have to learn to not go into things if the heart's not in it.
Mm.
It's like, okay, there's a lesson. There's something I pulled out of that.
Yeah.
And now getting better, that it's like, all right, embrace things and enjoy things more in moments. Like I went surfing the other day, and like I never thought I'd in the moment when I'm laying on the ground that I'd ever surf again. And then
Mm.
like after the surf, I was like, oh man, how good is this? How good is this that I get to do this? And it's now I have that extra bit of appreciation on things I do, and it's just like trying to appreciate it either while it's happening or directly after for longer than you would normally, because it's like so often you go through life and you don't actually like stop and smell the roses, and it's
Yeah.
like trying to smell those roses more often during the day, I think, is a very beneficial thing we can all do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super cool.
That's cool. It is hour and a half, hour 20.
Yeah, around that.
Ask the closing question. Finish on a happy note, on a bit of hope. We've come up with a closing question. We think we'd. Oh, where is my closing
I know what it is.
question? Do you want to ask a closing question? We'll ask a closing question. We'll ask probably all the guests,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
thought it'd be a good way to wrap up.
Little tradition we might start, but it's a fairly simple question to ask, maybe not to answer. But what is the biggest lesson you've learnt through your entire life?
So many of them, eh? One came to mind. I'll answer it better, but this guy had this thing, and it was just like, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Mm.
So, I guess the idea that, to expand on that, I guess we put so much worry into things that, like, dude, we're a little dot floating in space,
Mm.
like. And we stress about all these things, and like, yeah, there's some hard things we go through, but on the grand scale, if you zoom out,
It's not much.
it's all small stuff. It's like, I think like I said before, we really enhance negative emotions, and we kind of push down good emotions. And I don't know why we like are so drawn to those things, but I think it's just like coming back to take a breath, zoom out. Life isn't that bad. Things get hard for a reason. Learn from them, and enjoy like the good moments, because yeah, you don't know how long they'll be around for. But I think just be a good person. Try and connect with as many people as you can. I think we're all way more similar than we like to give credit for. And if you actually put yourself out there more and connect with more people, you'll realize that's more or less what I think life's about. Like really strong connections with new people around the world, in your town, wherever you are, I think is super beneficial. The more friends you have in the world, I think the happier you'll truly be. Travel, see as much as the world as you can. I think you'll subconsciously become a better, more caring, loving, accepting person if you see more ways of living, even if you don't agree or you do agree with how they live. It just shows you that it's not wrong or right, it's just different, and different's okay. So I think travel as much, meet as many people as you can, do as many things that make you step outside your comfort zone as I think you can. Because I think, yeah, a lot of people get frozen by fear, but it's like what's on the other side of that is the good stuff. So if you dive into that a bit more, that will ultimately make you feel better in probably every way.
Yeah.
And probably just smile more. It's crazy, like just smiling at someone can do. It can open up so many doors, and it's such a simple, easy thing to do, and so many of us don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, just smile more.
I think that answers it very well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
That's all right.
coming
It's
on.
good at first guess. Can't wait till the blow up actually when it's blown up and
Yeah.
be episode 101 or something.
Yeah,
It'll
well,
be in your studio.
It'll be there. We'll get there eventually.
I like
Yeah.
that.
But you're a blessing to the world, man. Thank
Yeah.
you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming
No,
on.
Appreciate
I
it.
appreciate that. And I like what it's funny. I read this thing the other day, and I thought it relates really well to you. And I remember when you were like getting stuff, and you kind of didn't understand why. And I read this thing the other day, and it said authenticity creates its own gravitational pull. And I thought that for you was like that's exactly how it sums it up. Like if you were authentic and you're yourself, and you live by that, man, stuff starts coming in. Stuff starts coming in. Good things start coming in. All this stuff keeps building, and you kind of like, I'm just being me. Why does this stuff keep happening? And it's like authenticity is such a rare commodity in this world now that when it does come out and it's obvious, people are so attracted to it, and people want to be around it and they want to slice. And it's like if you can be authentically yourself, it will create the life that you actually really desire because the right people will show up in your life at the right times. But if you're being someone else, you're never going to be around the right people because you're going to be around these people you're pretending to be, not these people you are. So I just thought about that with you and like you being authentic. It's like that's everyone's, that's their greatest weapon that they can use is themselves. So that could be another add on to the last question as well. But yeah, just keep being you. Keep doing this. This is really cool.
Thanks, Dean.
Yeah.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
means a lot, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you for coming on. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unreal. Couldn't ask for a better first one.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
but
was
it
sick.
Smacked it out of the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Even got the studio and everything.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad.
Sorry, the podcast room wasn't done, so we'll just use the
Oh,
office. But
Oh, it's unreal. Far out, Dean.
Yeah.
Come on,
yeah,
man.
no, next time.
Oh, it's unreal, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you. Well, that's the first guest on Before the Blow Up.
Yeah. No, don't forget to subscribe. Look at Dean's.
Yeah.
Social-
Off Track Experience is Dean's podcast. And
Yeah. We're changing the name though.
Are you really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, do you want to announce that?
Yeah, it's gonna be called D&M's with Dean.
D&M's with Dean.
That is a sick name.
That is a
actually.
good name.
Yeah, 'cause
How
I'm
did you
a-
come up with that?
Just thought about it for a while.
Yeah.
I've been on it for a bit. I just wanted to change because off-track experience. I don't know about keeping that maybe for like. I don't want to start a new podcast. Like I want the one podcast, but maybe
Yep.
even like certain mountain bike content will be the off-track experience, and then D&M's with Dean will be like more
The main
the
one.
podcast. Yeah,
I like
It's a
it.
sick title.
Yeah.
I like
because
it.
the off-track experience, that's mountain biking. But
Yeah.
I want to venture out and do more conversations with
People.
that are outside of mountain biking. So I think it needs to be separate. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I'll be
super cool.
Change
That's
it
awesome.
soon. So
Well, that's it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Or just do what you want. If you're listening, you
Do what
listen.
you want.
Nah, do it. Do it.
Or just go for a run. You know, get out, go for a swim.
Yeah, go to
Give
the
your
beach.
give
and
your
then
mum a
subscribe
hug.
once you're done.
Yeah, smile.
Oh, I was gonna say, write someone a letter. That's something that I've been telling people to do. Every
Write
time
someone-
someone wants to do something, like if I do something for them, like, oh, I'll give you some cash or do something for you. I'm like, no, write someone a letter.
Letter.
So if you've got someone in your life that you miss or you love, or you haven't talked to in a while, write them a letter and just send it to them. And don't say anything. Like, don't be like, oh, I wrote you a letter. Just let the letter
Just-
come.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing.
That's cool.
A written
I
letter.
really like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is really awesome.
So do that and like and subscribe as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorted.
All right.
All right,
Sweet.
boys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Cruising.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mint.
That was sick. Easy.
Thank you, man.
That's all right.